Welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast, where it's all about fixing your marriage without your husband's conscious effort so that you feel desired, taken care of, and special, even if your relationship feels completely hopeless. I'm Laura Doyle, and today we're talking about whether a relationship can be saved after domestic violence. My guest, Queenie, was so tired of her husband constantly interrupting, correcting, and criticizing her. Then a huge fight erupted and turned physical, and she took the baby and left. But she decided to do some experiments, and today they are back together. And she says her marriage is unbelievably amazing. She's going to tell us what she did so you can do it too. But first, let's talk about whether a relationship can be saved after domestic violence. Because physical abuse in your own home is one of the scariest things you can experience. And if you're not safe with your own husband, then when are you ever safe? And everyone who knows you and loves you may get scared too and say, you've got to get out of that relationship so you'll be safe. They'll want to protect you. So then it seems pretty hopeless and maybe even foolish to try to fix a marriage after there's been hitting, kicking, shaking, or choking. That's what I used to think too. But I got schooled. I got schooled in the best possible way by women who have lived through domestic violence and fixed their relationships. I found out that I was too scared of domestic violence, so scared that I couldn't find my faith, and I became bossy. And I told women they should leave if they were in a scary situation. I became Mrs. Know-it-all, who didn't actually know that when there's violence in the home, that doesn't mean the relationship can't be fixed. I learned from women who were braver than me, women who had restraining orders against their husbands and then decided to remove them. I heard from women who had to go to the hospital for their injuries after fighting with their husbands. These women were scared too, but something made them decide to experiment with the 6 intimacy skills instead of giving up on their marriages. As the experts on their own lives, they decided to try something else. They didn't want to be victims. They didn't want to be divorced. So they found a way to fix their marriages and this is key, make them safe. Then they even became coaches, and now they show other women how to fix their marriages after domestic violence. Here are 3 of the common themes I hear from these incredibly accomplished women. 1, they chose their focus wisely. Even after they had evidence that their husbands were a threat, the women who fixed their marriages after domestic violence gathered evidence about what a good man they had. About how he wanted to be her hero, how he wanted to protect her. Just like looking at a glass of water and declaring it either half empty or half full. Both are true, right? These brave women decided to see their husbands through the lens of faith instead of fear. That takes some courage right there, but they did it, and I admire them for that. Number 2, they were careful about who they listened to. Fear is easy to stir up, right? And when you go through something traumatic like domestic violence, it feels like a pretty big deal. Other people might feed on that drama and get bossy, like I did, and tell you to leave. But the women who were able to fix their marriages and make them amazing again were careful about whose voice they had in their ears. We all choose who we're going to listen to all the time. These women chose people who were standing for them when they shared about their marriages, and they tuned out or didn't share with people who were scaring them or telling them to leave. Number 3, they were willing to try some experiments. Women who put their families back together again, who made them safe and peaceful, did not know what was possible when they started. But they were willing to experiment. They're willing to try. They're willing to do things they'd never done before, even if they felt awkward, so that they could create the marriage they had never had before. They're willing to say unusual and new things, to do new things, and to throw out everything they thought they already knew. They were open, and they found a new way forward because of that. I'm honored to have guests on this show who have answered the question, can a relationship be saved after domestic violence? With a definitive, yes, it can. If you're wondering how to get started with fixing your relationship and making it shiny again, then you need a roadmap. Get 6 simple steps to follow that will set your relationship up for success. Discover 3 common mistakes that wives make trying to fix their relationship that just make things worse when you download my free Adored Wife Roadmap. You can do that at getcherished.com. Go to getcherished.com now to get your roadmap in minutes. My guest, Queenie, was so tired of her husband constantly interrupting, correcting, and criticizing her. And then a huge fight erupted, turned physical, and she took the baby and left. But she decided to do some experiments, and today they are back together. And she says her marriage is unbelievably amazing, and it still has room to grow. She's going to tell us what she did so you can do it too. Queenie, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really admire your work, Laura. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Well, let's go back to the bad old days. What was happening in your marriage?
Okay, so like many others I've heard on the podcast and in some of the coaching, arguing was a problem. And usually it felt like it was when I started the conversation and I would try to be clear on what I'm actually saying, and we would go back and forth. And I did not like that. It became very frustrating for me, and I just wanted to finish my point or help the conversation be a good conversation, but I was being misunderstood, and I just felt like it happened too often.
Yeah. And that's painful, right? You feel like you're not being understood. You're being misunderstood and misinterpreted. And no matter how much you try to clear it up, it's only making things worse, it sounds like.
Yes, because like you said, I was getting interrupted. So before I could even be clear enough in the beginning, I'm interrupted and corrected, like, oh, you should think this way, or oh, it should be that way. So that was pretty tough for me. And I don't remember experiencing that dating.
Yeah. So it happened. Yeah, it's like a surprise. This is who he really is.
Yes.
Yeah. And so of course it would seem like, well, he's the only one that can fix this, because he's the one that's doing the interrupting and the correcting and the criticizing. So yeah, it sounds really painful.
Yes.
What else was happening?
Yes. And I can think of times when I was interrupting. I also did disrespectful things like that too. I just felt like it was less me and more of him. But,
sure.
But to go into the other things that were happening, let me look here. I'm a little nervous.
Sure.
Other things that were happening, like having teamwork on home duties and finances, it was hard to see eye to eye on those things. And I would try to get us to have like regular meetings so that we can work on teamwork, so that we can have teamwork, work through everything. But I received pushback on those. So I had to just kind of chill with let's have meetings and just do what was in my power to do.
He didn't want to have meetings.
No, ma'am. Like at first he would come, but when someone doesn't want to do something, their attitude is there, and it didn't quite go that well. They didn't quite go that well. So
yeah,
yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, oh gosh, so it sounds painful, because you're thinking, how are we going to make progress, right? If we're not
exactly
frustrating, and you want to be able to communicate, and that's so you're not communicating, you're not meeting.
Yes, ma'am. So basically I had to fall back and let him initiate when he wanted to, and of course it didn't have the regularity that I wanted it to have. But as I fell back and just kind of let him initiate when he wanted to, and just stay on my own page as you teach us, it got better, and we're actually getting to where he's initiating, oh, let's meet. And so with finances, and so that's good.
That is good. So, all right. And so it sounds like you're kind of limping along. Doesn't sound like you were, I mean, right. It wasn't on the brink of divorce. It doesn't sound like it. Even
No. I mean, those thoughts came, especially when it feels like, wow, we just really can't get on the same page. So those thoughts did come, like maybe we're not supposed to, maybe this isn't for us, but not yet. No, ma'am.
Yeah. And then there was a pretty big breakdown one day.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I just that day. Let's talk about that day. So this day, my husband was not working this day, and he was, in his mind, he wanted to get more things around the house in order, which is good. But there was breakdown in communication with that. So the the way he was going about it, I felt disrespected, and then just in my mind, like I felt like I had been disrespected over a while, over time, in this way that you're doing this. So I did something I usually do not ever, I've never done this before, but this day I was like walking in and out of his face, like waving my fingers like this at him, and telling him, like, just angrily saying things to him like, you don't talk to me that way, basically, and if we need to do it this way, we need to do it that way. And of course, he in turn felt disrespected with me going to that degree. And then he like pushed me in my face and in my chest. And I looked at him and I looked at the baby that was in my arms. And I walked out the house and called the police. So that just really said something. That was said things. How do I say? That was really the breakdown before the breakthrough, in my opinion, of our marriage. I did not. After the police left, my husband was very angry with me, and so before I came back to the house, I kept calling to try to talk to him, and he would not. He would not answer my calls. So I'm like, you know what? He's very angry. There are firearms in our home. I'm not taking this for granted. I'm not going home before we have a comfortable conversation. So I was gone for like days. Me and the baby with the clothes on my back, clothes on our backs. We were gone for days. So that really was the breakdown before the breakthrough. So
terrifying, right? I mean,
very terrifying. I researched domestic violence and stuff because that seemed to be the beginning. And even divorce, I looked into reasons in our state for divorce, or reasons that are legal, I guess. So it was that scary to me. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So you were just thinking, how can I protect myself? How can I be safe? Protect my baby.
Definitely.
Yeah, because it seemed like he was out of control. Sounds like.
Yes, I felt like I didn't physically do anything to you. Why did you physically do something to me? But we talked it all out. We that evening, it was that morning. So by that evening, he called me, and that's what began our conversations. And by a few days and talking heart to heart about the situation, about our marriage in general, I was comfortable to return home. And he was like, he had like gifts for us, like just welcomed us with all this food. And just when something happened with the baby, he like reached to take care of it before I did. And just I guess they call it like a white flag when people surrender, when there's battle or war. I saw that, to me, that was like a white flag, let's really work on this. So yeah, I was happy. I was happy for that.
Yeah. So you felt safe enough to go back after, and it was like a
Yes.
few days, it sounds like,
Yes. Yes.
and then when you did, it sounds like he was very loving. Uh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yes. Because Laura, one of the communication things was I learned from you, sit down with pen and paper and figure out what do I want? What do I want? And so I did that. That time apart gave me the chance when I wasn't busy with the baby to just piece by piece figure out what do I want? What do I want as a wife in this marriage? What do I want for my husband in this marriage? Things like that. So I figured that out and I wrote it in a letter to my husband. Well, through text, basically, technology today. Just
Sure. Yeah.
text it to him, and
Yeah.
that was one of the clear things that helped me be confident too in springing forward because I saw that he was responding positively to things in the letter. So
Mhm.
that was before we went back home. So yes,
Well,
ma'am.
I love this because
Mm,
so here's I mean the overarching feeling it sounds like
mm,
was fear
mm,
about your safety
mm,
and the future of your marriage. And
mm,
so by getting into thinking about your desires, you
mm.
kind of shifted that focus away from the
Yes,
fear.
yes,
It
exactly.
was a way of choosing your faith and then communicating it with him.
Yes,
And I imagine that your one of your desires was to continue with your marriage.
yes, yes, it was.
Uh,
Exactly.
so Queenie, I give you a lot of credit for creating
Thank
that
you.
loving reaction. Amazing,
Thank
really,
you.
right?
It was.
Yeah, what a relief to
Mhm,
have
mhm,
that
mhm,
softening,
mhm,
and for you to. It sounds like you felt safe enough,
mhm,
uh, but
mhm,
that's a very courageous response, right?
mhm.
I think probably a more common response is to continue with the fear, right? And
Mhm.
react
Yes,
on based on the fear,
yes,
mistrust, and sometimes you get what you expect from somebody, and it
yes.
sounds like you were setting your expectations to him being loving.
Exactly, exactly. And I'm so grateful that I had the knowledge from you to do that, to choose faith over fear. Like I've heard that all of my life, but to know what that looks like in a marriage scenario, I learned that from you, and I'm so grateful.
Um, Thank you. Wow.
Yes,
Well, I'm so impressed that you were able to reach
yes,
for that faith in that moment.
yes,
Super courageous.
yes.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. Wow. All right. So, what else? What other, well, how did you first discover uh, the intimacy skills?
The first time I discovered your intimacy skills, I'm trying to remember because I know I read The Surrendered Wife. I want to say it was before I got married, but I'm not 1% sure. But if not before, it was in the early stages of my marriage. So that was my first encounter. I also read, for me, it was First Kill, dot, 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 but now it's The Empowered Wife. So
Yes.
that was my second book. And in between both of them, I would like, yeah, self care. Let's do self care. Definitely got to do better with self care because it's easy to not do that well with self care, especially I was able to do it as a single person better, but as a married person and now a mother is more difficult. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's do self care a little more, and also I had to learn to make sure and balance it in a way, like make sure and do something for me, which is self-care, and also make sure to do something for him, which is gratitude. When I learned from you about gratitude, I was journaling it at first instead of telling him. I don't know why where I came up with that idea to just write it down and not say it. But once I started saying it, it made like it's like it increased the trust level. It increased the trust level for sure. So I don't know where I got that idea, Laura. I'm just going to write it.
Well,
It changed my
yeah.
gratitude, but it didn't have
Yeah.
that other effect of changing him to respond to positive words of affirmation from his wife. So
Yeah. I think it's a great start, actually. And it
yeah.
sounds like it kind of got you there
Ah,
because it
yes,
did soften your heart, it sounds
yes,
like. And
yes.
And it can feel so vulnerable to
Yeah.
give those gratitudes, right? So it's another courageous thing.
Yes, it was good to get to that part of the step of sharing it with him and him responding positively because of it. Yeah, it was
That is
awesome.
awesome. And what a great distinction you make, right? You could have
Mhm,
gratitude that you keep to yourself and it did change your heart. When you
mhm.
expressed it to him, you also got a better response from him. It's
Exactly, exactly.
I love that. That's a good takeaway, right? That we have
Yes,
that option too. And
yes.
maybe it can be a step in the right direction, certainly to find that gratitude for yourself and put it on
Mhm,
a piece of paper,
mhm,
write it on
yes.
your phone or whatever.
Mhm,
So I want to ask you I want to kind of unpack because I really love that you have this wisdom of the experience of coming back to a marriage after you felt so unsafe, you called the police, right? So,
mhm,
and I think this is a more common situation
mhm.
than we realize because you don't get
Yes,
to hear about this, right? So,
yes,
some
yes,
you maybe keep it secret, right? Because
yes,
it's like you want to suffer a loss of status in the tribe or whatever from
yes,
people hearing about this.
yes, yes.
But I just want to ask you, like, so I'm just imagining because we were kind of at a crossroads when you left, just nothing but the clothes on your back.
Mhm,
And if you had, if we think about trying to find safety in your
mhm,
marriage, and which is was what you were trying to do,
mhm,
you chose this path of really kind of seeing the best
mhm,
and figuring out your intentions and
mhm,
expressing those, seeing the best in your husband,
mhm,
deciding to trust him again.
mhm, mhm,
But I'm just kind of wondering, what if you had gone down thinking, well, I'm still afraid. There's
mhm.
firearms in the house,
Right,
and maybe telling other people, like, wow, I had to call the cops, right? And
right, right.
um, I mean, I guess I'm kind of wanting to hear from you
Mhm,
um, how that has affected your safety today. Like, if we'd
mhm,
gone down that other road versus going
mhm.
down this road,
Right.
what do you think?
I I think going down the road of basically like gossiping and just fear that something much worse is going to happen. I think going down that road would definitely have made it more difficult for reconciliation, like coming back together and having not only coming back together, but having a healthy togetherness. Um, I think that road would have made it way more difficult. Possible. It still could have been possible. I think it could have been possible using your skills, but it would have taken a lot more faith than not going down that road. A lot more faith and a lot, not just faith, but a lot more work because I don't know what I would have had to say in my letter to, I don't know what I would have had to say in my letter. I don't know what, maybe I would have had to leave the house again because it happened again. Like you just, yeah, that fork in the road is important. So going that way would have made it more difficult in my opinion. And I actually think that I know a friend who went down that road and their marriage did not recover from it. So um I think that's a possible outcome too of going down that road. So
Yeah.
yep, that's why I'm like I'm so grateful. I knew from Lord Doyle to how to choose my faith. Like I'm so glad because I don't know. I don't come from married people, and I don't really know many happily married people. So I'm so grateful.
So your parents are divorced too, or
No,
not together?
never married,
Never married,
never
never married.
married.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm,
I get it.
mhm,
And now, how safe do you feel in your marriage?
But very safe.
Very safe. Very safe.
We
It's
built
interesting,
that.
right?
We built
Right?
that. Thanks to you, we built that.
Yeah. I just
So,
think, what a
yeah.
miracle. That's a miracle. I really think so.
Yes, yes.
And then I love that, you have a friend with
Mhm,
a similar situation, and
mhm,
I'm wondering how safe she is now.
mhm, mhm,
I don't know if there
mhm,
were kids involved or whatever, but
mhm, mhm,
some
mhm,
ways I think the illusion is that the getting away is the safety, right?
mhm,
And
mhm.
in your situation, you were able to create the safety right in your home.
Yes,
So anyway,
Exactly.
just
Exactly.
really love that.
Exactly.
That
Me too. Because
that
I definitely, a goal of both of ours is for our son to have both of his parents.
oh,
So like it together in the same household. So helping create that, I'm so amazed and so hopeful for what we will continue to grow into. That is healthy and wholesome. And he will be positively affected too. And he loves to like see us around the house. When we're embracing, when we're hugging, he wants to be in the middle of it. Like he loves it. So yeah, he loves it. He loves it. He
gosh.
when we're both in the room, he loves to cut flips, like act extra. So he's cutting flips and look at me, more than when just one of us is in the room. So just seeing those little things is worth it to
Mm,
create a safe, healthy space for family in the same household.
mm.
So,
Oh, I love that, Queenie. I can't think of anything more important than that,
yes,
really.
yes, me
Right?
either.
Nothing
I
more
agree.
purposeful
I
than
agree.
to give that little boy that home
Mm.
court advantage that you do.
Yes,
So I
yes,
admire that very much. And this is
yes.
something you didn't have, it sounds like.
Mm. Not at
And,
all.
and
Not
did
at
your
all.
husband have it?
No,
Uh,
ma'am.
Oh, you are starting a new tradition in your family,
I love it.
right? Your son comes from married people, right? So I love this. So, and
Yeah.
what is your relationship like now?
It is amazing. Like the big problem of arguing, which is my opinion, that's very minute. I mean, like, we're human, so it still happens from time to time,
Sure.
but not with the same frequency. And that's I love that. And we're the I remember like before now, like early on, I'd be like, hey, so tell me your hopes and your fears. Just out of the blue, I'll say stuff like that. Like just wanna I think I'm I just like the deep stuff. Like just tell me
Sure.
your hopes, just tell me your fears. I don't even know if I said hi first. But he would basically be like, nah,
Uh,
no thank you. But now he just pretty much just kind of he'll come be where I am and just talk about what's on his mind, what's on his heart. And I'm like, wow, I didn't have to say anything. So
oh,
it's amazing. Like you call it duct tape, but like basically it's silence. And so just being more silent, meaning listening more. That is very. I thought I knew what it was, but now I know more of what it is, and I have to even grow to what it to more of. I have to grow, but I'm learning to be more silent. And sometimes it like especially in my culture, when people ask you a question, if you're just silent after when they're expecting a question, it creates tension. So sometimes I've had to learn, okay, I have to say a word like maybe and then be silent. I can't just be silent. So that was a trial and error thing for me in my culture. But basically I'm still being silent. So
yeah.
it's an amazing journey. Like the work is worth the rewards.
Okay, I love this. So this is a great example of you
Mhm,
being the expert on your life. Like if somebody asks
mhm,
you a question,
mhm,
for you to just be silent is not going to create the outcome that you're
mhm,
wanting. So
mhm,
you learn to just say,
mhm,
"Oh, maybe," like to
mhm,
be like I'm here, I'm listening,
yes,
but I'm not going to
mhm,
agree or disagree or
yes,
commit.
yes,
I'm just
yes,
going to leave it some space, some open. And
yes.
then I'm going to bring a big listening ear after that.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. And it works, Laura. It works.
Oh, it's
So
awesome. That is awesome. So, do you ever feel a little bit like, wait, well, I want to say my opinion too. Like what I think counts here. I should get to say what I want to say.
for
What about
sure,
that?
for
Yeah.
sure. It's like in those times when I feel that way, those times, it means that I just have to listen a little longer and then I can say what I want to say. And then when I do say what I want to say, it's going to have the information of what they've already shared. And so it's going to be more focused, more of a focused saying than it would have been. So yeah, I've learned, okay, just let them finish and then you can say it. So even if I started the conversation, because that was the biggest confusion for me. It's like, I started this conversation though. I'm kind of confused. So even if I started the conversation, I would allow myself to be interrupted, allow them to finish, and then I can go back to what I was saying in light of what they added, and that helps the conversation go on to no blame, no you didn't, because I would be like, oh, let me finish in the past, and that helps people be defensive. So don't say, oh, let me finish or anything like that. Just, okay, I see what you're saying, and I was saying this, and if I am able to incorporate what they're saying to what I'm now saying, I'll do that. So
Wow. So this is incredibly generous, because what I hear you saying is, whereas before he would interrupt and then correct and criticize, and then he would interrupt and you would say, let me finish, or you interrupted me, really is the subtext of that. And now you're kind of like, okay, he interrupted me. I'm going to let him have the floor. I'm going to let him have the floor. Even though that sounds like incredible self-control.
It is, and I fail sometimes.
Oh, yeah, well, sure. Yeah. Are you just a mere mortal woman, Queen? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. But I think it's interesting to aspire to this, right? Because before it sounds like you just thought, well, he's wrong. He should stop doing this. And I'm going to correct him until he does. And that didn't get you the results that you have now.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love it. Wow. Okay. So you're listening more, and so you're having these deep conversations. He's seeking you out. What else? How else? What is it like at your house?
We play a lot. Probably more than before. A little more than before. We play a lot. What else at the house? We're sharing more responsibilities. Like sometimes I'll come to the kitchen and it's clean already. And I'm like, okay now.
Yeah. That's hot, right?
Okay. So hot. Very hot. And so and like I somewhat hit on before, like with finances, my husband will initiate, oh, let's talk about finances now, or at this time. And so we'll agree to a time and come together, and his attitude is different than before because he initiated it, I guess. And we're getting, and then on my end, with listening better when I'm interrupted, I'm starting to like take notes of things like, oh, that don't sound right. Instead of just saying it, then I'll write it down. and then like we'll after he's finished, I'll say, what about this part? What do you think about this part? Bringing out the part that it seemed like he left off in what he was saying. And then he'll just say something that includes what he said and what I said. And there's a solution. We got it. Moving on. No arguing, no nothing. Like, oh my goodness, this is amazing.
It is amazing.
Yes.
Wow. So you have superpowers, Queen. Is that right?
Yes. Superpower of self-control.
Yeah, self-control and great listening, right? And gratitude.
Yes.
Self-care.
Yes. And knowing what I want and communicating that. Like that's huge too.
Getting clear on your desires. Yeah. Wow. Well, it sounds pretty wonderful at your house. I give you credit, so much credit for that. And every marriage has room for improvement, of course. Even mine, absolutely. And so,
no way, Laura.
Yeah, I could be a better passenger in the car, I think. I've been working on that lately. So, yeah. So, if it sounds really good. It sounds really good. So, what's your best tip for somebody who's listening and maybe has gone through something really terrifying, like she's had to call the police to come to the house.
Yes.
And she's She's very fearful for her physical safety, her kids' safety.
Yes.
Um, what's your best tip for her if she wants to create what you have now, where
Um,
it's safe and there's playfulness and
yes,
deep
yes,
conversations and they can get on the
yes,
same page with things and feel like a
yes.
team? What should she do?
Yes, I encourage you. I know we're two different people. If this is the first time it happened for you, please choose faith over fear, meaning yes, yes, make sure you are safe. If children, make sure your children are safe. That's priority. But as far as your marriage, uh, I encourage you to do the work of self-care, gratitude. In that instance, communication is very important. Figure out like what you want moving forward. For a fact, you know you do not want that scenario to play out again, where something physical happened and the police was called, and so you don't want that. Think about what you do want. Write it down, communicate it with your partner. Your partner may also communicate with you what he wants, or um, we'll just say your partner will communicate what they want, and you guys can go from there. And especially if you're practicing the skills, I really think that is going to be a um, positive result for you. So, yeah, definitely safety first, but please, please, please try the skills. And a coach may be a coach, a Laura Doyle coach may be a great way for you to figure out the blind spots you don't have, the things, like if you're afraid to do it on your own. That's what I'm trying to say. If you're afraid to do it on your own, please get a Laura Doyle coach. Like, please, please, please. Don't do it on your own. I've had some Laura Doyle coaching before I experienced it, so I was able to kind of navigate it. So, yeah, please do.
Wow. Well, this is such valuable wisdom that you have from this experience that you went through. I'm so grateful you're sharing it with us. It just made me realize that what did you tell your husband that you wanted when you wrote down your desires?
Yes, and I even like when we had a hiccup afterwards, texted to my husband as a reminder of what I was saying I wanted to move forward with. Okay, so I started out basically saying, I'm just going to try to sum it up quickly. I love you, like, because he was telling me in the conversation before, I love you, and that's why I didn't do worse. So I said, I love you. I choose to work to show you that I love you each day. Let's see what else. I want a marriage that has two spouses who are happy with themselves and with each other. And that's another daily word. I'm grateful for how we have grown in these. And then I told him, I heard you say that you want to lead your family. And I know that you will. As your wife, I will be a help. And this is how I will help. Um, it Yeah, so this is how I will help in that. Sometimes I'll say, yes, I can when I can help with your goals. And sometimes I'll say, no, I can't when I can't help with your goals. Um, and so that's a quick summary of it. And I said, I hope this is plain and without complaint. These are my thoughts so far.
Hmm.
So that's a quick.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you
Yes,
for
yes,
thank you so much for sharing that because it's
yes,
so valuable to hear.
yes,
Your vision
mm,
was that we're going forward as a family
yes,
here, and we're
yes,
both going to be happy with ourselves and happy with each other. And
yes, yes, yes,
so, and the power of that vision, and now you're living in it, is
yes, yes,
super
yes.
inspiring, Queenie. Super.
Oh.
Yeah, I love it. So, what do you think you would say to yourself if you could go back in time and tell yourself what you know?
As far as those arguments, Laura, I would say, don't go there. If he says something that's a little different than what you're talking about, just don't go down that road with him. Just wait till he comes back. So basically, just be, say, okay, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. Okay, maybe just those kind of using those kind of words and being quiet. That's the main thing I would tell myself. That's the main thing. Is there something else? Yeah. And then okay, so I do have an example. Like one time my husband asked me, he was like, so what do you think about getting another car? And I knew what I was thinking. I'm thinking, do we have the money? I don't think we have the money. But in that instance, I learned to say, like I said before, maybe. And then I was quiet. And so basically, the rest of that conversation went well. And we ended up getting me a different car because it proved to be a better choice with having a car seat in a different car versus the car I already had. It was a better fit for a car seat. So I would say, yeah, definitely. Just, girl, you got interrupted. It's okay. Just say maybe, or just say, okay, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. So, yeah.
What a great example. So he was thinking about the safety of his family.
Exactly.
He was thinking about a new car, and you're thinking that we can't afford that. But that wasn't. That's not the whole conversation. There was more to it.
Yes.
You were willing to be open and receive a better car. So,
yes, exactly. I'm like, wow, I did not know that was going to play out like that.
I love it. I love it. Well, this has just been, I felt just so delighted to get to hear your story, Queenie, and it feels like such an honor to get to hear the inside of your marriage and all the good things that you are doing in it and how you are setting your family on a new course, a course of married people with parents in the home.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're a total light in the world for what is possible.
Yes, ma'am. I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy to share. I'm so happy to share it with others. So, yeah.
Yeah, but you're helping somebody fix their marriage today. No
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yes.
I couldn't be more grateful. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Story.
Thank you, Laura. It's been a pleasure.
If you'd like to be my guest on the Empowered Wife podcast and share about how you fixed a struggling relationship using the 6 intimacy skills, I would love to interview you. Just go to lauradoyle.org/podcast-guest to let me know that you are willing to make a big contribution to ending world divorce by telling your relationship story. I look forward to meeting you. That's lauradoyle.org/podcast-guest. Listen and subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. Next week, I'll talk about the Empowered Wife workshop. In the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is that just like so many of the websites I visit, I use cookies to enhance my performance, like peanut butter and chocolate chip.